Something I will say is that Time Magazine definitely took their due diligence to sit down with the two-time WNBA champion, and she pretty much had a lot to say, man. She talked about Caitlin Clark, some of the backlash she was receiving towards the beginning of the year.
Something I will say is that Time Magazine really took their time to sit down with the two-time WNBA champion, A'ja Wilson. She had a lot to say, especially about Caitlin Clark and some of the backlash Clark faced earlier this year. A'ja Wilson's comments about Caitlin Clark are setting the sports world on fire. Her interview with Time Magazine has everyone talking, and it might even change the future of women's basketball.
I do want to talk about one of the things that was in the interview, and it is asking A'ja about the comments that Caitlin Clark made regarding privilege, and Asia's kind of...
Remember when Caitlin Clark made those white privilege remarks? Well, Wilson's response was nothing like what anyone expected, sending shockwaves through the WNBA and beyond. You may be wondering what Wilson could possibly say that would be so groundbreaking. But get ready, because this twist is about to change everything we thought we knew about these two powerhouses.
So the question was, Caitlin Clark got some blowback from something she said in a recent Time story. Essentially, she acknowledged that she has certain privileges as a white player, that she wants to do what she can to ensure black players who have built the league get more visibility and investment.
In the interview, A'ja was asked about Caitlin Clark's comments regarding privilege and the contrast between Clark's earlier statement and Wilson's take.
A'ja Wilson says, "It's powerful to me. As a black woman in the WNBA, we have our struggles in showcasing who we really are. A lot of agendas get pushed on a lot of different platforms that may shadow us. You work so hard, but you still have to work 10 times harder just to be seen. When we have our counterparts speak up, it means volumes to me, because they're in spaces where my path is never..."
Is truly mind-blowing, reshaping the conversation around women's sports in ways we never saw coming. Caitlin Clark had made a controversial statement about white privilege, acknowledging that as a white player, she has certain privileges. She mentioned how many great players in the league have been black and how important it is to continue.
It's crazy that we're talking about that in 2025, but it's real. We see those things as black women. We see where people stand up and speak for us. I know Clark got a lot of backlash from that, because obviously we live in a world where they don't want that, and it's exhausting.
To elevate and appreciate black women in the sport. That quote made its rounds on social media, sparking reactions left and right. But A'ja Wilson's response was far from expected. When Time Magazine asked her about Clark's comments, Wilson didn't just agree. She took it to a whole new level. She acknowledged that Clark's statement was powerful, and as a black woman...
But imagine dealing with that and then having to go out and play every single night, having to constantly have to worry, how are they about to downgrade my resume now? What more do I have to do in order to showcase how elite and how serious I take my job? But I also do it with love and passion and fun. A lot of people don't want to see me at the top, and that's fine. I'm gonna be there because I work my butt off to get there. I have a lot of privilege in a lot of different ways. I can be in spaces where not a lot of other black women, white women, however you want to see it, are not. But that's where I'm going to try to use my privilege of being a professional athlete to help others. So claps, steps, all the in between, because I know how hard it is to speak.
It meant a lot. Wilson continued, explaining how black women in the WNBA often struggle to be seen, despite working harder than most to showcase their talents. When people like Clark speak up, it means a lot, as they're in spaces where Wilson's path wasn't supposed to exist. Wilson went on to question how long she has to keep working and proving herself at the top. Her words give us a rare behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to succeed as a black woman in professional basketball. You might wonder why this is such a big deal. Well, Wilson is exposing the real challenges black women face in sports, shining a spotlight on issues that are often ignored. It's a shame we're still talking about these struggles in 2025, but it's reality, and Wilson is calling attention to it. She acknowledges that Clark faced backlash, but also points out the exhaustion black women feel when they speak up, knowing the pushback is coming. Here's the interesting part. Wilson mentioned that when she speaks out, people attack her. Imagine having to think twice about every word you say, even when you're at the peak of your career. Wilson, a multi-champion player, is saying that even with all her success, she feels like she's constantly proving herself. But even so, she says she won't stop.
In this article, like I stated, she talked about different stuff. Now, she did talk about Caitlin Clark getting bashed. She said, in a wider range of conversation, Wilson defended Caitlin Clark, Indiana Fever youngster, who sparked controversy with her remarks over.
She's worked incredibly hard to get where she is, and she uses her platform and privilege as a professional athlete to help others. Now, what does this all have to do with Caitlin Clark? Well, after all the backlash Clark faced, Ajay Wilson actually came to her defense. Wilson said that when someone like Clark speaks up, it opens doors for Black women who might not be in those spaces yet. Wilson believes it's important for
like one of the best interviews I've seen from her, because usually there's something in the interviews where I just kind of roll my eyes and I'm like, she says something weird or funny. Like this is like pretty much like as much as like she didn't like thank her or anything, but she said she pretty much acknowledged her as much as she could say, hey, she got as close to saying she appreciates her without saying it. It's powerful, things like that.
People in positions of power to advocate for others who may not have that opportunity. And that's why she's using her platform to support Clark. So, what does this mean for women's basketball? We're seeing a new playbook unfold right in front of us. Wilson's candid words are shining a light on the hidden struggles that Black women in sports deal with every day.
But it was a very thorough answer. Caitlin Clark took a lot of arrows for the way she spoke in Time magazine. What Asia is doing here seems to be, in my opinion at least, a little bit of what a lot of Caitlin Clark fans have called for, which is somebody else from the league to, look out for her a little bit, somebody to be on her side, somebody to acknowledge what Caitlin did. This is a great...
She's holding up a mirror to the industry, forcing people to confront these issues. Wilson's interview is a wake-up call, showing us how critical it is to advocate for equality and visibility for Black women in the sport. As the story continues to develop, Wilson and Clark, two of the biggest names in the game, are joining forces in a surprising show of solidarity. It's as if two heavyweight champions are teaming up to tackle a bigger challenge.
I do want to go back and focus on this quote here where she says, what more do I have to do in order to showcase how elite and how serious I take my job, but I also do it with love, passion, and fun. A lot of people don't want to see me at the top, and that's fine, but I'm going to be there because I worked my butt off to get there.
Their alliance could change the entire landscape of women's basketball. What's even more powerful is that Wilson is backing Clark's controversial statement about privilege, something nobody saw coming. It's like watching a double play in real life. Wilson's willingness to speak out and support Clark, despite the backlash, is powerful. She's helping open doors for Black women in spaces they've often been shut out of. And it's not just about basketball. It's about giving a voice to those who've been overlooked for far too long. In her interview, Wilson also talked about how hard it is to play at the top of your game while constantly fighting for recognition.
Because I don't think anybody that watches the WNBA would contend that A'ja Wilson is not an excellent player. Like, you just look at, her stats, you look at how she impacts the game on the offensive, defensive end. It's really hard to argue with that. I think the point of contention is, should that automatically mean you are a star to the level of someone like Caitlin Clark?
Imagine trying to ace a test after staying up all night, and then doing it for months on end. That's the reality for Wilson and many Black women in sports, always working harder, facing constant scrutiny, but still pushing forward. But here's the kicker. Even though Wilson has won 3 MVPs and multiple championships, she's still fighting for mainstream recognition. And she's not the only one. Many of the top players in women's basketball have had to deal with being overlooked, despite their accomplishments. It's a tough reality that Wilson is challenging. Ultimately, the discussion about what makes a player a true star in women's basketball
The world that Caitlin Clark has affected, I feel like it's been totally different. Totally different in a way to where the star power, the aura, the business side of things is not like people are not going to see Caitlin Clark because she's a 3-time MVP. Like, it obviously hasn't happened in her career yet. Those will be accolades that will come, that will validate the basketball. But there has been such a mixing, I think, of the two ideas, and thinking that qualifies somebody for star power, for box office.
isn't just about stats or championships. It's about being someone who captivates an audience, someone who people want to watch. And while talent is important, it's not the only factor. Wilson is proving that success in women's basketball isn't just about playing the game. It's about building connections and capturing the public's attention. So, what does all this mean for the future of women's basketball? We might be witnessing a major turning point, one that could change how we see and celebrate the sport. Wilson and Clark's unexpected alliance could be the spark that ignites a new era of visibility, recognition, and support for Black athletes in women's basketball. This conversation could reshape everything, and it's something we should all be paying attention to.